In Tampa, Florida, the next live trial on Court TV, Curtis Reeves shot and killed a young dad inside of a movie theater after a heated argument about texting. Reeves claims self-defense. And now finally, after 8 years, the trial has begun.
A 6'4" individual standing, trying to come over that chair is terrifying.
On the docket tonight in Louisville, Kentucky, the case against former officer Brett Hankison, who was part of the team that raided Breonna Taylor's home. We have the latest.
It's time to move forward with the criminal charges because she deserves that and much more.
Plus, Kanye West, in the middle of a nasty breakup and custody battle with Kim Kardashian, is allegedly upset that his 8-year-old daughter has an account on TikTok. Tonight's 13th juror question: at what age should kids get on social media, and who should make that decision? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And for more than a decade, I have been questioning and wondering, why do we have no-knock warrants? I just see them as something that is completely unsafe and many times, if not all the time, unnecessary. Unnecessary. And I say that because I've seen cases where babies have been mangled. I've seen officers shot unnecessarily. And I've seen innocent people killed. And I've seen it time and time again. And the reason I say that is because in this country, we have the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, which allows citizens to be lawfully armed and to have weapons. We also have in many jurisdictions the castle doctrine, which means if I'm home here in my house, in my castle, and someone breaks in, I can use deadly force. Lawfully use deadly force on that person who breaks into my house. So what happens in a case where you have a valid no-knock warrant? It's been signed off by a judge, and you've got the Second Amendment. What happens when these two things clash? I'll tell you exactly what happens. People who are lawfully doing things end up in a crazy, wild shootout, and people who are acting lawfully get shot and get killed, whether it's law enforcement or a homeowner or someone who's in their house. Either way, and I've seen it way too many times. And I know there's reasons for no-knock warrants, right? Someone could get rid of some evidence. You could be dealing with some really bad people, and somehow, some way, law enforcement believes the safest way to execute the warrant is through no knock. But I don't think that's the case all the time. In fact, I know it's not the case all the time. Anyhow, now let's move on to the latest case that we are dealing with in a very public way. It's the shooting death of Amir Locke. Amir was in his home. He was sleeping when the no-knock warrant was executed. He had a gun with him. He grabbed the gun, and he was shot. Now, the question here for everyone is, was this a rightful shooting? Was this a lawful shooting? What exactly happened here? Well, we've got body cam footage that's been released by police in Minneapolis, by authorities there. So I'm going to give you a warning that what you're about to see is graphic, but it's what actually happened, and it's why, and it demonstrates how and why Amir was shot and what police were doing and what they saw at the moment. So let's take a look. And that's how quickly it all happened. That's how fast it happened. And now Amir is no longer here, and everyone's looking at these officers like, what are you doing? And like I said, he had a permit for that gun. He had done everything he was supposed to do to lawfully exercise his Second Amendment right. And he's asleep. And you're asleep, and all of a sudden you wake up. How long does it take you to figure out what exactly is going on? And if you're sleeping with a gun next to you, you're sleeping with a gun next to you for a reason. And whatever that reason is, I don't know. But that reason could be you're concerned about where you live and who could be coming through that door. And that is a lawful reason. Anyhow, let's take a listen, because the people you should hear from at this moment are his mother and father. He was just 22 years old. Let's take a listen.
When my son, he talked to me about purchasing a firearm. And actually, we all talked about it. Me, his older brother, and Amir as well. And he made sure that he did his research. Everything was going to be legal.
Yes. Because
they've been watching all their lives about what's been unfolding throughout this nation. On unarmed black males. And I was proud of my son. He picked out his weapon. He did what he needed to do, basically being safe with it, how to use it, and he got his permit.
Yes,
and I always worried about, not that he would ever have to deal with other citizens or anything like that, but I actually worried about him encountering the police, and not the way that he encountered them on February 2nd, but just like if he had his weapon, if he ever got stopped and pulled over on the side of the road. So my fear, both of my sons have always been something that dealt with the police department.
We come from a law enforcement background. My cousin is, I have cousins that are police officers. I have a cousin that's a federal law enforcement officer. He was with the CIA, the Pentagon, and also now with Homeland Security. And he was Amir's mentor. Amir talked to him all the time. He coached Amir on proper safety of a weapon. We're not against police officers. We're just against accountability. We're not against, I do apologize, we're not against police officers. We just want accountability.
So the question is, what is accountability? What does it look like in this case? And what I want to focus on tonight is not so much no-knock warrants. That's part of the discussion. But is there a basis to bring criminal charges against the officer who shot and killed Amir? You've got a judge signing a warrant. They're executing a lawful warrant. Amir has a gun in his hand. What is an officer supposed to do? What is he trained to do? Based upon all the factors and what we know to this point, based upon the actions of the officer who fired the gun. Not the officers who got the warrant, because I don't even know who they are. And I think it's likely that it's not the officers who are executing the warrant. So the officer who had the gun in his hand, who fired his weapon, is there any basis for criminal liability here? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, criminal defense attorney, civil rights attorney Kesia Early. In Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Michael Bixon. And in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Albert Wunsch III. Okay, Kesia, I'll begin with you. Do you see any basis here for criminal responsibility for the officer who fired the weapon?
It depends whether or not that officer was also responsible for drafting the warrant, because we know that the judge relies on the officer's sworn testimony that everything was accurately investigated and everything that's in that warrant is true. So it all goes back to the warrant. And then also what did the officer do in that particular clip that could have prevented the situation? So again, it would depend on the actions of the officer. But in this case, I do believe that everything will be contingent on the warrant itself.
On the warrant, not so much what we're seeing in the video. So what, I just want to clarify, Casey, what you're seeing in the video, does that look like it's a reason for the officer to fire his weapon?
Well, if I was counsel for the officers, obviously they did enter the home with a valid warrant. So the defense would be, we had a valid warrant, we were executing the warrant, and we saw a gun, and we had to react. The question is, was it going to be fired? I mean, did he even have enough time? As you stated in the earlier clip, Benny, I mean, he just woke up, everything is just, he's hearing this noise. He had his constitutional right to have that gun. So in this case, obviously, what have we learned from 2 years prior with the previous no-knock warrant? Was there exigent circumstances that even warranted this no-knock warrant? So it all depends. This case is still unfolding, but obviously the results in this case is not good.
Michael Bixon, what do you see when you watch that video? Do you see an officer who was justified in firing the weapon, a justified homicide?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's it's an unfortunate incident. Do I think that there should be criminal charges pressed? I don't think so. I don't think it rises to that level, especially against whatever officer was actually involved in the shooting. I think that for the police, I do think that they should obviously have a duty to de-escalate a situation, not to escalate. But whether or not that should arise to a criminal level, I don't think so. I do think they're going to have a great civil suit. But, regardless of that, if you're trying to bring charges against the officer, you're going to have to try to show either some type of criminal intent, some type of really egregious, reckless act. And based on the fact that they're operating on the assumption of a valid warrant, I just can't see that happening.
Al, let me ask you, Al, there are people calling for criminal charges. I've heard some people call for murder charges against this officer. Your thoughts?
Not at all. You have a valid no-knock warrant. When they go in, it's heightened, excitement. The adrenaline is pumping. They go into this room, they call out. A person underneath covers turns around and has a gun in his hand, and the gun is pointed towards the police officers. What are they supposed to do? Wait till he fires and then make the decision, oh, he's firing at us? No, you have to take immediate action. And that's what those police officers did. They were there lawfully, and they acted lawfully. There is no way that they could bring criminal charges against these officers under these circumstances. There certainly may be a civil suit, and there's probably going to be one, but none of these officers should be looking at any criminal charges. Unfortunately, the way things are with regards to the attacks on the police, there's going to be some sort of investigation. There's probably going to be a grand jury, and let the grand jury decide, and hopefully they'll do the right thing and exonerate these officers.
All right, Casey, let's take it down one notch from criminal responsibility to should he lose his badge?
In this case, if I'm not mistaken about the facts, this wasn't even the right home, if I'm correct, Benny, right? So if that's the case, then there should not only be criminal charges, but like my colleague said, also civil charges. I mean, he was lawfully in his home. He had this permit to carry his gun. Was he even in the position to shoot at these officers? So in this case, I do believe that there should be charges, but obviously there's more information that needs to come about. And we can't just say that this warrant is valid, because we've seen in the past where warrants were issued and the things that the officer swore to were not accurate. So everything hinges again on that warrant and what inspired after that.
Absolutely. And the warrant, I understand, is still sealed, but there was an original warrant out of St. Paul. This is in Minneapolis. They were helping another jurisdiction execute it. It was a homicide investigation, but as you keep saying, Casey, there's a lot of things we don't yet know at this point. What we do know is what we see in the video. We'll continue to follow that story, obviously. When we come back, we're going to talk about the next live trial here on Court TV. It's been 8 years in the making. There was a shooting in a movie theater because of an argument about texting, and a young dad is gone. And the man who shot him is claiming self-defense, but we've been waiting almost a decade for this case to go to trial, and it's finally happening. We'll have a live report next.
Look how these age spots seem to vanish right before your eyes.
Oh my God.
Blemishes seem to disappear in seconds for a flawless complexion. You can't get this look with regular old-fashioned makeup. To get these flawless results that look years younger instantly, we have big news. Luminesse has taken airbrush and now made it easy for every day. Call or go to getbreeze.com to get our all-new Breeze cordless airbrush that applies both makeup and skincare fast and easy with flawless results that look years younger in just seconds.
Putting the drops in.
Just hit the button real simple. So easy. It knows exactly where.
That's Curtis Reeves in his police interview after he shot and killed a young dad that he got into an argument with in the movie theater because the dad was actually texting with the babysitter. You know, they finally got a night out, this young couple. They have a young child at home, but texting with the babysitter to see how the child is. And it results in someone getting shot and killed. Unbelievable. Let's listen to more of this police interview. And I want you to remember, this is an old recording. This is from 2014, because that's when the shooting was.
His feet were on the seat, at least one of them was, and he was pushing back with his hand, and he was coming over the seat. Now, exactly where his feet were, I don't know. He was coming over into my area, where I'm sitting. Okay. And I'm saying, whoa, whoa, whoa! It's like this is just a cell phone, but you know, this is nothing. Right. And I don't know if I was saying no, 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 or whoa, whoa, whoa. So he's coming over on me. I'm pushing him off with my left hand, and I had a hold of something. I'm assuming it was probably his chest. I don't know.
With your left hand?
With my left hand, right.
As he's coming over, do you actually make contact with his?
I made contact with something, his arm, his chest, his shoulder, I don't know. I'm saying, no, 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 whoa, 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 whoa. And like they say in the books, it happened so fast until... And then as soon as I pulled the trigger, I said, oh, what, this is stupid. But again, I'm 71 years old, I don't need with a younger man.
71 at the time. What is going on here? Anyhow, he's a former police officer, by the way, just so you know that. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae is joining us live tonight outside the movie theater where that shooting occurred in Wesley Chapel, Florida. Julia, great to see you. He was telling the police he was scared. I mean, that seems to be a big part of, you know, that's obviously the reason. I'm in fear, I'm scared. And that came up in some pretrial motions as well.
Vinny, it did. The state made a motion early on that they wanted to be able to give the jury a redacted version, the transcript of this interview that Reeves did with police willingly, voluntarily, his attorney not around, right after this happened. It happened here at the movie theater where he sat with them and said, I'll give you a statement. And he mentioned that he was scared. The prosecution says those statements were self-serving. They don't need to go back with the jury in the deliberation room. Here's another portion of that interview that the state didn't want this jury to know about.
When he jumped up and turned around, it was no problem. I mean, it was just a guy being mouthy. Right. When he jumped on the seat and came over in between the crack between the two seats, that's when he's scared.
So that was an emotion. The defense immediately responded saying that that is critical information, that the jury should be able to hear the entirety of this interview if the state is going to play it. Ultimately, the judge denied that motion to use a redacted version of the transcript. So if the state decides to use or give this jury a portion of that statement, they'll have to give them the entire thing, including those statements that support this self-defense claim that Reeves feared for his life when he was dealing with Olson.
And then you run into what I call the Zimmerman issue. You allow the defendant to claim self-defense and testify without being cross-examined. So my guess is, or my hope is, that prosecutors would not put his statement in and just laid out for the jury that a guy holding a bag of popcorn gets shot in a movie theater, and here's the guy who shot him. Here's the gun, here are the ballistics. Let him get up on the stand and explain it live. But that's just me, Julia. Now, let's talk about that movie theater, because this is someone who brought a gun into a theater. I'm sure he's licensed to carry in the state of Florida, but there were some signs in that theater.
Some signs that the defense now does not want this jury to know about. They filed this motion just a couple of days ago, a motion in limine, asking the judge to exclude any references that the state may try to use, saying that these signs were inside of that theater at the time. And I believe we have those images that were included in the motion, which represent what was there back in 2014 that this defendant would have likely passed by, prohibiting any weapons, guns, knives inside of the theater. I took a look today for myself to see, even though it's been 8 years and this movie theater has been completely remodeled, it's under new management, whether or not those signs are still up. And I did notice in a very small corner of the entryway that there is that sticker that shows no weapons allowed inside. Now, the defense says it's not relevant to this case, that the defendant had that license to carry. He was able to carry a concealed weapon, and that it's irrelevant to the issue of whether or not he used justifiable force in that moment. But clearly the state would want to bring up something like this because you have a defendant who's upset with someone in the movie theater not following theater etiquette by texting, but he appears to have been carrying a weapon in a place where weapons were prohibited.
Yeah. By the way, the texting was before the movie even started. I don't even know if the previews are up yet, but we'll find out during the trial, obviously. All right, so let's talk about jury selection. This is only going to be 6 jurors, right?
Right. This is going to be 6 jurors and 4 alternates is what we've understood from the attorneys in this case. That's who the judge is looking to seat. They've gone through 50 prospective jurors. The judge said they'll keep bringing in 50 until they get that panel. They're looking for a qualified pool before these attorneys get to use their peremptory strikes. What we're hearing is that opening statements could start on Thursday or Friday of this week.
All right, Julia Janae joining us tonight from the theater where all this took place. Appreciate it. We'll be talking a lot throughout this entire trial. Thank you so much. Again, folks, I go back. This is 2014 when this all happened. He was 71 back then. Guess he's 79 now, 8 years later. Let's take a look at a side-by-side if we could, because this could be an issue in the case. If you're like a 79-year-old man, all of a sudden you look a little more feeble. So on the left, that's him today. On the right, that is him back then. And honestly, he doesn't look feeble now. So I don't know how much the 8 years is going to help him, if at all. But there he is on the right. That is after the shooting. That is in the theater where he is. You can see that he's handcuffed. That's right after the shooting. So let's bring back in our think tank. See you early, Michael Bixon, Albert Wunsch III. Great to have everyone back. So let me start first with the age. Is that an issue here, Michael Bixon? It's 8 years. I know that's a huge win for the defense because this guy was already 71, so he got at least 8 more years on the outside because he's not been in jail. But do you think his increase in age will make him more sympathetic 8 years later than if they had tried this case back when it happened?
I mean, I certainly don't think it hurts. I do think that it helps on some level. How much, I think, remains to be seen. But I think for the defense, the biggest problem they're still going to have to show some type of, proportionate response to whatever threat he perceived. And if he's 71 or 79, I don't really think that's going to play a huge factor in the jury making that decision in terms of his self-defense argument. So, I mean, I do think it helps slightly in terms of the image that he's portraying to the jurors. But in terms of the law and the facts, I don't think it's going to make a huge outcome or a huge difference in the outcome.
Al, there's video of this, but it's like every other surveillance video we have. It is grainy. You don't see everything that's happening. It's kind of in the corner. But listening to what he described, he said that he had come over onto his side, but you never, ever really see the victim in any of this. You may see his arm at one point or the popcorn at some point, but I'm looking there and we're zoomed way in on this. So it's there, you just see an arm. That's it. That's all you see. You see that arm come in and then the gun goes. So Al, your initial reaction to that claim of self-defense, the fear, he's scared, he needs to use deadly force, that arm, which actually I think threw popcorn coming into the screen.
Well, the key to me, Vin, is always what condiments were on the popcorn. Because if there was butter and there was salt, then you have an assault and buttery defense that could possibly come into play. with regards to this. But I want to state.
I think a bunch of people just got up and walked away from the television now.
No, assault and battery, Van. That was great. Now, but let me just say this.
Okay.
With the gun situation, though, the fact that he was former law enforcement, that sign wouldn't apply to him. There was a directive that was signed by George W. Bush after 9/11 that gave law enforcement officers the right to carry at all times because, you know, we are always on high alert at all times. So the fact that that sign is there is not going to come into play in any way. I don't know why that would even be an issue. The fact that it says, oh, check your guns at the door would not apply to someone who's former law enforcement. I mean, he was a former captain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's a captain in Tampa,
Right, and this is an absurd defense. It's an absurd case. He should never have fired a gun. He's firing a gun in a theater, okay, with other people in the area because the guy was upset that he was telling him to turn off his phone, and that you know, he turned around and confronted him. It's just a horrible case, and the fact that they lasted 8 years that he wasn't sitting in jail is a benefit to this defendant, but ultimately he's going to be sitting in a jail for quite some time.
KC, as I look at that video, it just looks a lot different than what we heard him describe, right? He was describing, I touched his shoulder, he came over. I just see an arm and that's it. I see an arm and then I see, as soon as that arm comes over, the gun comes out and he fires it. Now, I believe he was probably scared. He was afraid he was going to get hit. Is that enough, Casey?
That's not enough. And I do believe this is why the prosecution wants to play these statements. They want to show that he said something that was inconsistent to what we can see on the video. I mean, in this case, we know that he was the aggressor from the beginning. He knew that he had a loaded gun, and he taunted this victim until he had the opportunity to utilize it. And he was not afraid at all. As you can see from the footage, this movie theater was not crowded at all. So if he was truly afraid or truly annoyed, he could have sat anywhere else. So in this case, all you see is the arm. Is that enough? Absolutely not. I'm pretty sure that the jury will see from this grainy video that he did more and he should be found guilty.
All right. Again, this is the next live trial. We're working on that jury. Hopefully they'll have them within a day or two, maybe 3. If it goes slowly, we shall see. Still ahead. On the docket tonight in Louisville, Kentucky, the case against former officer Brett Hankison, who was part of the team that raided Breonna Taylor's home. We have the latest.
It's time to move forward with the criminal charges because she deserves that and much more.
Plus, Kanye West, in the middle of a nasty breakup and custody battle with Kim Kardashian, is allegedly upset that his 8-year-old daughter has an account on TikTok. Tonight's 13th juror question: at what age should kids get on social media, and who should make that decision?
At Drive Time, we approve 99% of people who apply, and you can see your real down payment in like 30 seconds.
And your real monthly payment?
Yep, we get it, Tim.
Did you get it, Deb?
Yes. In basically 30 seconds, you can get approved and see your real down payment.
And your real monthly payment?
And your monthly payment. Get your real deal at drivetime.com.
If you're hungry and you want a great deal, the Super Slam is your perfect meal. It's pancakes, eggs, sausage, bacon, and hash browns. It's enough breakfast for dinner, and it's as good as it sounds. See you at Denny's.
Show the world what it means to be a fan with exclusive fan gear designed by fans.
After a 6-month investigation led by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, only one officer will face criminal charges connected to the shooting.
The grand jury voted to return an indictment against Detective Hankison.
Brett Hankison faces 3 counts of wanton endangerment, but not for endangering Taylor. Instead, the charges stem from shots he fired through covered glass that penetrated into a unit next door with 3 people inside. Louisville Metro Police were working on a narcotics investigation and served a no-knock search warrant on Taylor's apartment when it happened.
Officers encountered rifle fire. Officer down.
Taylor and her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, were awakened by pounding at the door. Walker grabbed his weapon, thinking someone was breaking in. He fired his gun once, striking Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly in the leg.
EMS is around the corner right here. We need EMS here now.
Officers unleashed a hail of bullets, hitting Taylor multiple times.
911 operator, where's your emergency?
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
Can you check and see where she's been shot at?
I can't get on her stomach.
Okay. Is she alert and able to talk to you?
No, free.
This video, obtained by Court TV, captured an emotional Kenneth Walker just moments after his girlfriend was shot dead by police. The city of Louisville paid out a historic $12 million settlement to Taylor's estate.
As I understand, is the largest amount ever paid out for a black woman in a wrongful death killed by a police in America.
But the Taylor family says there is still a long fight ahead in their quest for justice.
It's time to move forward with the criminal charges because she deserves that and much more. Her beautiful spirit and personality is working through all of us on the ground. So please continue to say her name, Breonna Taylor.
Former Detective Hankison, he is free on bond and has pleaded not guilty to the charges.
And again, the criminal charges, again, have nothing to do with the shooting death of Breonna Taylor. That was found to be justified by the grand jury that looked at all the evidence in that case. Let's bring back in our think tank, KC Early, Michael Bixon, Al Wunsch. Al, let's start with you. This case, everyone talks about it was a no-knock, no-knock, no-knock. It was a no-knock warrant, but they actually knocked. I mean, that's part of the story that no one ever talks about. So what went wrong here? What went wrong here? Because they actually knocked, and police go in and they encounter gunfire. And the person who's shooting at police and ends up shooting one of the officers, he's not charged with anything. And the officers who return fire and don't hit the man who was firing the weapon, but strike and kill Breonna Taylor, no one there was charged with anything. So I'm trying to figure out what went wrong here.
Well, one of the things that they're supposed to do with regards to these types of situations is to evacuate people that are in the vicinity, if it's at all possible. And it seemed to me, based on the fact that they were able to announce themselves before they actually went in, that they would have had the time to clear out the people in the vicinity. I mean, I've actually been involved in shootings in hotel rooms, and the police usually get the rooms that are adjacent or at least on that floor evacuated as quietly as possible, so that when they go in, because a lot of these hotels and stuff, the walls are very, very thin. So if they go in and there is a shootout, it's not going to happen to what happened in this case, where the stray bullets are going to go into other windows or other, other accommodations and put people in jeopardy. And that's what this police officer is being charged with. I mean, it was sloppy police work with regards to how they handled this assault on this room. It shouldn't have happened. I don't know, though, how, the gentleman who shot a police officer walks away uncharged. I don't know how that happens in any civilized society, but it happened here. And Breonna Taylor was a tragedy, and it's a horrific situation. But I don't think that the police officers were wrong with regards to the actions they took, except that they could have been a little more efficient with how they took them.
Casey.
Well, in this case, the reason why the boyfriend in this case walked away without being criminally charged is because his reaction was warranted in this particular situation. Again, this is similar to this current no-knock warrant that happened with Amir. When you are abruptly, charged at with these officers, you instantly react not knowing that you're actually shooting an officer. So it's understandable why the charges were eventually dropped with the boyfriend. And it's unfortunate that the only thing that Mr. Hankison is being charged with is endangering and firing multiple shots at the neighbor's apartment, as opposed to being held accountable, in my opinion, for the death of Breonna Taylor.
Michael Bixon, your thoughts?
I mean, I certainly understand why Hankison was charged. I mean, the whole situation was terrible and unfortunate. You know, I think on both ends, you see a lot of sort of wrongdoing in terms of Breonna Taylor's boyfriend just shooting out the front door. And I certainly understand why, because somebody trying to break in. On the same time, you have these officers wildly shooting everywhere. It just sort of seemed like chaos. And I think it could have been done a lot better. And unfortunately, it wasn't. And this was the result.
Al, let me just come back to you for one more moment here. How do we avoid this? How do we avoid this? Because you know we have a Second Amendment. You know someone breaks into your house, you can take them out in most jurisdictions. It's the law is what it is, right? And we've got people, it's like mistakes of fact back and forth. Both sides, you know, acting lawfully, but it's a chaotic, wild shootout. Police officer shot. Completely innocent woman shot and killed. Shouldn't happen. So what do we do here? What should be done?
Well, we do have too many guns in this country, and that's part of it. And I understand that there's a second amendment.
Wait. You can say we have too many guns out, but you're not going to take guns out of people's homes, right? Like, well, you're not going to get them out of people's homes. You're going to get rid of the Second Amendment?
No, but the bottom line is this: they did identify themselves as police officers, and I've always said this time and time again, as my Uncle Nunzio said. Okay, you can beat the charge, but you can't fight the ride. When you hear the police are coming in, then you stop, okay, and you allow it to go through, and then you win once you get to the courtroom. You don't battle it out in the bedroom. So let's bring it to the courtroom. Let's keep it out of the bedroom. And then there would have been no one killed in this case.
Yeah, I don't think they knew it was police. I mean, I'm like 99% sure they knew it was. If it was police, he wouldn't start shooting at police. There was no reason to. He didn't do it. He wasn't the subject of any of this. But it's massive, chaotic, and unnecessary on many levels. All right, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about Kim and Kanye. There's a little bit of a battle brewing. It was a very volatile weekend. And it's all about, at least in part, TikTok. Don't go away.
Attention, parents of premature babies. If your child was born premature and was later diagnosed with necrotizing enterocolitis, or NEC, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Several studies have shown a link between cow's milk-based formula and NEC. If your baby was fed a cow's milk-based formula, such as Similac, Enfamil, Gerber, or even store-branded cow's milk-based formula, and was diagnosed with NEC, don't wait. Call the Victims Justice Group now. Necrotizing enterocolitis is a severe intestinal illness that often requires surgery and can be fatal 50% of the time. NEC can affect any newborn.
But they're in Splitsville, folks. But the divorce not filed. Things are getting really tumultuous. It was a volatile weekend. Kanye, also known as Ye, apparently. He dropped the K-N, K-A-N. So it's just Ye. Ye West was posting a bunch of stuff on social media, on Instagram, and was referencing what's going on between him and Kim in this big breakup. Take a look from the LA Times, Kanye's Instagram post. Since this is my first divorce, I need to know what should I do about my daughter being put on TikTok against my will. So he's a little upset that his oldest daughter, Northwest is her full name, is on TikTok with Kim. It's kind of like a co-account. Meanwhile, Kim also posting a response to all this action over the weekend, and she said, divorce is difficult enough on our children, and Kanye's, and she doesn't call him Ye, by the way. How about that? She calls him Kanye. Kanye's obsession with trying to control and manipulate our situation so negatively and publicly is only causing further pain for all. Wow. Now, let's get to that TikTok account. You can take a look at the bio on the official TikTok account. You look closely, it says, me and my bestie managed by an adult. So she's making it clear that Northwest, that's her last name, is not at 8 years old doing this whole thing by herself. But it's a very public breakup. A lot at stake here. Most importantly, though, the children. Let's bring back in our think tank, Casey Early, Michael Bixon, Al Wunsch III. Michael, are you concerned here? Are you concerned about the public nature of what's going on here? And should, you know, you're going through this breakup, should dad have a say in whether or not the 8-year-old is on TikTok?
I mean, it makes sense to me that he should have a say in terms of whether or not, you know, his daughter's going to be on social media platforms. I do think, though, that the, I guess, public questioning and, you know, throwing this entire situation out into the public by both Kanye and Kim, I think is ridiculous. I think it's despicable to put their daughter out in front of everyone out there and sort of, you know, have this stranglehold on her and use the media and go back and forth on it to determine whether or not they should have a social media account for their daughter. I think is just wrong, flat out. Whether or not, you know, their daughter wants to be on there, I think they're both acting like children, and I think it's ridiculous.
Casey, how are you assessing this situation right now?
Well, for Kim and Kanye, they thrive on public affection and attention. But as a parent, I have a teenager, and he's been on social media since he was 15. It's closely monitored by me. I have the password. I have the logins. I check. There's checks and balances. But in this case, I do believe whether it's a celebrity or not, both parents should have a say-so. But at 8 years old, whether it's managed by a parent, it's still entirely too young to be on social media. But this is a different celebrity couple, celebrity parents, and a celebrity child.
Now, this is the part of the segment I was very scared of, because I don't know what he's going to say. Al?
No, Vin, you know, I mean, I myself have a TikTok account, and I'm under lawful day-yo. But, you know, I think that we are in a different era, and that an 8-year-old has a cell phone nowadays. An 8-year-old is cognizant of what is going on socially, and when you come from two parents who made their fortunes with social mediums, what is the problem with her being on? As long as she's being monitored, she's being on with her mother, and she's being watched. Okay, so I don't see that there's any issue, and I think that what Ye did by going on and trying to make this into a public spectacle was just abhorrent. It should have been just a note to his mother or to his ex-wife or soon-to-be ex-wife and said, you know, listen, I wish you had spoken to me about this. Let's keep this private and go from there. He made it into a spectacle sport, and that's not appropriate under the circumstances. But at 8 years old nowadays, I mean, you know, like I said before, we're in a different era. Right. And kids have
is the new
this kind
18.
Of access.
Is that what you're saying? So this is fascinating. And again, we'll continue to see how this all plays out. But I want to say thank you, Casey Early, Michael Bixon, and Al Wunsch. I didn't know Al was going to be Team Kim tonight, but he is. Surprised me a little bit. Thanks so much. And when we come back, we'll hear from you, our 13th juror.
He said, if you leave, I am going to kill you.
The killer, you know. They were the perfect family, but never suspected.
This was very rare to find a brother killing another brother.
Real crimes.
2 bullets went directly in my head.
Real cases.
The most intense trial that I've ever had.
Real relationships.
I'll find you, one way or the other.
Someone They Knew with Tamron Hall, premiering Sunday, March 6th, only on Court TV.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by attorney Andrew Van Arsdale.
And we'll let you know how much money you can get for your accident.
Thanks, Rob. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Go ahead, don't hesitate. Take that first step and call now.
So Kim and Kanye in a little brouhaha over the weekend involving their oldest daughter's account on TikTok. She shares it with her mom. Posted on social media, of course. 13th juror question of the day. What do you think of 8-year-olds on TikTok? And it's Lisa W. with our comment of the day. No, it's not okay for kids to be on TikTok. It's up to parents to protect their child and their innocence. Go Kanye, you're absolutely right on this. Angie says the mother has the comments turned off. The mother doesn't allow her daughter on there without an adult. The whole thing is supervised. Kanye's just mad Kim won't take him back. You should have done privately, regardless of what side you're on. He makes a spectacle out of everything because he's mad at Kim. He's not putting the kids first. When we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. We're going to bring in our family law experts. Don't go away.
Do you use Viagra or Cialis? Have you been thinking about trying Viagra or Cialis? What if we could promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 a pill for Viagra, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our